Better go back to the hospital for a little bit. But hold on. Okay, Rabbi Shimon, I'm just going to have a shorter bit of a class. We just had to go back to the hospital for a little bit. Hold on, let me bring up the text.
Your whole family is okay?
Yeah, everyone's okay. We just have we're having a little bit of a post-operation issue. Hold on.
Okay. I have been there.
Oh, sure. Hold on. Let's see what's going on. Let's come again. Okay, we're learning the Maamar. We're learning the Maamar Vayikra, the first Maamar of Likkutei Torah. The first Maamar of Likkutei Torah. So welcome to Likkutei Torah. We started a new Sefer of the Alter Rebbe to this. So it says like this: Vayikra el Moshe, and it was called to Moshe. It doesn't say who calls, but Moshe was called. But we all know that the Vayikra starts with Aleph. The Vayikra is Ira. The Aleph of Vayikra is small. It's in the actual Torah, like in the printing over here. The actual Aleph is small. With Divrei Yomim, and the beginning of book of Divrei Yomim is, so it says it starts with Adam, which gives over the history of the Jewish people, of man. So it starts off Adam with a large Aleph Rabasi. Understand all this. We're not going to get through the whole Maamar, but the basic Maamar, the question that the Rebbe is asking over here is, why is this idea of Vayikra? Who's calling? And what's really the connection between the conclusion of the two of the book of Shemais and the beginning of Parshas Vayikra and Sefer Vayikra? That we finish Shemais off saying that Moshe cannot enter into the tabernacle because the presence of Hashem is there. So that's how we finish off the Sefer. Like it finishes mid-story. How does it start? The new book, the third book, the book of Vayikra, starts off saying that now God calls Moshe to come in nevertheless. So we're going to go through that whole process as much as possible in our class today. In the Amar Resolve Midrash, the Midrash says, Vayikra el Moshe. What does it mean, Vayikra el Moshe? So it says like this, like Avram chsiv Vayikra Malach Hashem al Avram. When a God calls Abraham, it says in one of the times that the angel of God called Abraham. The angel calls and the speech goes to Moshe. When it comes to Moshe Rabbeinu, it's not that the angel calls Moshe and says what God wants him to say, but God's the one who calls Moshe, and he's the one who calls and he's the one who speaks. So too, of course, the Zohar, it says, Vayikra Moshe, Kala de Malku v'lo yadei shlicha achara. That's the voice of the king, not through any other messenger, which would be like an angel. So why do we have to have the Medrash and the Zohar telling us that this is unique, that God calls Moshe, not as opposed to Avram, where there's an angel? The verse could have clearly said, to make it simple for us, Vayikra Hashem Moshe, that God called Moshe. Why doesn't it tell us or teach us who's the one who's calling? And also one has to understand. The Zohar Parshas Vayikra, Kosid, and the Zohar teaches us, Vayikra el Moshe, v'lo kamer man hava, ela b'chol hani malacha, the bris hava, v'kula b'kucha bricha utma. So when you see the translation, it says in 7, it says Vayikra Moshe, the Zohar teaches, who's the one who's saying? In all other cases, it has an angel speaking, and God speaks through the angel. What does this all mean? So what are we trying to say? What's the Torah teaching us over here in the beginning of Vayikra? So here's the fabulous thing the Alter Rebbe says. Because the Torah finishes off in Likkutei, which is the end of Shemos. It says, Moshe was unable to walk into the Ol Moed, which means the tabernacle, the sanctuary of the tabernacle. He shachan alava on it, because the cloud rests in the sanctuary of the tabernacle. And God fills the Mishkan, meaning the presence of God, the covet of Hashem, so to say, fills the Mishkan, so Moshe can't come in. Pirush. What does this mean? Shachan elavonin who ham shachas vasharis or in sefer. What does it mean that God is that that Moshe can't go in because the Anan. What does that mean? What's that represent in so to say Giluyim in Revelations? It means that Hashars are in Seif Baruch Hu, that the infinite, the light, the infinite light of Hashem, from the highest level, like it says, Yashes Choshech Sistre, God hides Yashes, He hides behind, so to say, the darkness. What's the darkness? Darkness, it means the unknown. Where there's the unknown, like something that's dark, which we know is so how God fills it, encompasses the world, encompassing, i.e., that's not it's not within the world in the way of revelation. It gives its effect, so to say, from an outside space, and with that means on the unknown, the darkness. As a what does this mean to the individual? That there's no comprehension. There's no revelation of comprehension. That's what we know. That up to a person can understand is up to that point, which is there's through their hasaga, through a person's comprehension. You can. That's what we talk when we say Rav Masach Hashem, Agadol Masach Hashem. We talk about the greatness of God within creation. That's all the way God fills the world. That's called Memalik Olam. But the part that's beyond the world, there's no hasaga. So if you see a tree and you try to understand the greatness of the tree, the highest of the key, the vitality of godliness within the world, so you have some sort of comprehension of what's happening over here because you see the results of it. But in Sefer Vayikra, although you can see the results in concept, but you don't have a true hasaga, true comprehension of what that is. So imagine that's the presence that's revealed within the Mishkan. Of course, Moshe can't go in. How could Moshe go into the unknown? No mind could grasp anything that level. Even if God is chacham, Ant means God is chacham. He's a wisdom. Not the chachma that we know that we could have a relationship with, so to say. He himself is the one who knows and the one that is known. That's what it means in the verse, that God, so to say, places darkness. He conceals himself in the darkness of the unknown. Like in darkness, you can't see where you are. You don't understand this situation. So too, this is the darkness that's beyond our comprehension. It's a different type of darkness. Now again, there's going to be, of course, the question that we're going to address. What's the obvious question? That if the Anan represents the Orein Sof Baruch Hu, the infinite light, which is the Sofer, which therefore Moshe can enter that space. The obvious question is, we know it says, we learned a discussion in the parshas before that Moshe went into the cloud. Moshe goes into the cloud, and that's how he enters into the space of the 40 days to receive the Torah. So how could he go into the cloud on top of the mountain? He can't go into the cloud to the Mishkan. So we're going to learn that there's Is Anan v'Is Anan. There's clouds, and then there's a cloud. And so the cloud of that Moshe was able to go in to receive the Torah was one level. The cloud that reveals itself in the Mishkan is on a higher level, and Moshe can't go in. So he explains, the idea is like this. We say, Ata Kaddish, you're holy, V'Shimcha Kaddish, and your name is holy. Now, it's not just a repetitive statement, you're holy and your name is holy. It's two separate statements. Ata is you, meaning to say the essence of God without beyond the name. You say you, there's no you're beyond you with having the separation of a name. You literally could say you, so that Ata Kaddish, you're holy. But also V'Shimcha Kaddish, even though you manifest in the name, which we're talking about the highest level of the name, let's say Yud Kei Vav Kei, is also Kaddish. And Kaddish doesn't mean holy, Kaddish means separate. In this place, anytime you see Kaddish, the holiness is an outcome, that's why it's separate. But the actual word Kaddish, Hagdish, Kedushin, we use the word constantly when we're talking about separating something for holiness, or separating something for elevation, or something is separate because it's elevated. But the actual idea of Kaddish is to separate. The terminology used for engagement, when a couple is engaged, is called Kedushin, because the woman becomes separate. She's no longer available to the rest of the world. And now she could have married anyone. And now she chose to marry this individual. And when that happens, so then she's separate. Let's try to see again. I'm on another computer here. Let's see if I can get Sharon in. Here we go. It says Ata Kaddish. You're Kaddish, you're separate. Hey Charna. V'Shimcha Kaddish. And your name is also separate. Pirush. Shegam b'chinas shemai hu niskav levadei. The chiddush that we say over here, Ata Kodesh v'Shimcha Kodesh, when we talk about the chiddush means what we're saying that's not so obvious is that even the manifestation of the name, b'chinas shemai, is niskav levadei, is also alone. Beyond, what's it mean alone? Beyond. She'ein erech la'olmeis im shemai yisbarach klal. You can't compare God, the creation. When we're talking about creation, we're not talking about our physical world, but any kind of manifestation of creation to the name that creates. God is the creator. The name that the highest level of God's name is as creator. So much so that the name is totally separate from the world. I mean, what does it mean separate from the world? Separate from the world means when something is separate means it has a whole other existence, almost so to say, that's not dependent or defined by the world. It's separate in concept from the world. God's name of Havaya is not a name, that's what we say, or that Hu Shmoy Levadai, that before God created the world, He and His name was alone. What does it mean His name was alone? If your whole name is to be, for instance, like we said many times, there's many levels of names. You have a name that's a Shema Torah, a name of let's say of a description. You have a Shema Etzem, an essential name, an essence name. So a description name is okay. Of course, you can have a person who's a lawyer, a person who's a doctor. That's not a chiyuv. It's not an obligation just because you become a doctor and you use the title rightfully so. You're not lying to anyone. You are a doctor. You're qualified to be a doctor. But are you acting as a doctor? It depends if you have patience. If you're not healing people, what is a doctor supposed to be doing? Whatever the job that the name is connected to. So you potentially can be a doctor, but are you being active as a doctor? No. So when you say God is a creator, and he hasn't created, or he's beyond creation, is there really a definition to the name? It means the name totally dependent on being a creator. That if he's not creating, then what's the name? Like I understand you can be a doctor. We can hire you as a doctor, but you're not an active doctor. So is God an active God, so to say, creator if he hasn't created? And that's the chiddush. That even before God created the world, the name is beyond the world. It doesn't need the world to exist in order to have the name. That's a big madrega. That's a big level to say B'Shimcha Kodesh. God's beyond the concept of the worlds. So what creates? So if it's not dependent on the world and it's beyond the world, what creates is Haidai Vizivai. The ziv, meaning to say the ray, shel shemai of the name, an outcome of the name. Nimshach al Shemaim comes to heaven and earth. Heaven and earth doesn't mean heaven and earth where we're standing, you look up and that's the heaven. Heaven and earth means things of heaven and things of earth, things of ruchnis, things of gashmis. This is only a ray of the name. So the essence of the name is not dependent, it's beyond the world. Beyond being the creator, even beyond means the created by Hashem is unlike another name. For instance, this is Shema Etzem. This is who I am. If I have a name, again, a person doesn't need a name if you live on an island. We always say name is for Zulus, for someone else. Because if you live on an island, you live on an island, and you don't have to call yourself anything. You can think to yourself about things, but you're not talking. No one needs to connect to you. No one can connect to you. So the concept is as some sort of level of communication. But the Shema Etzem is this is me. I don't have to do anything. If a person could have a name, and you can say that the person didn't do anything, so was the name a waste? No, that was he. That was her. So that's the Shema Etzem. That's the name itself is the manifestation because it's not the Etzem, it's not the essence. It's the name of the essence, but it's the name of it's the name for the essence, and therefore it doesn't require to have a creation, but the manifestation of that is that he creates. So that's what you are holy. Means the essence beyond the name is Kaddish is separate. So what's the difference when we say Ata Kaddish V'Shim Kaddish? If both of them are Kaddish, so what's the difference if they're both separate from the world and beyond the world? What's the difference if it's the name or him? The difference is that from a manifestation of the name could be a creation. There can't be any manifestation from Ata, from you, into the world. There's no part of you unfiltered by a name that could be accepted into the world. Therefore, Moshe can enter into the Mishkan. Because if Atar Kodesh is being revealed into the world, how can Moshe enter into the Mishkan? If the essence is there, there's no relationship. The question is, of course, how is the Atar in the space of the Mishkan? That's another conversation. What does it mean that the essence of God is in the space of creation? This is Adar, and that's an argument that the Ramban and the Rambam have, that the Nachmanides and Maimonides. Adar, and from this is understood, Pirush Yash's special sister. This means that he's hidden, so to say, in the darkness. Because it's so dark that there is no even ray or manifestation of Ata, of the essence that the world could accept. Because of the name, yes, the world can accept. Why? Because it does accept. Its existence comes from a ziv, from a ray of the name. Even though the name itself is Levade, but if a manifestation of the name, a ray of the name, a ha'ara of the name, creates. And therefore, obviously, if he creates, it's accepted. The Rebbe continues, L'kach nikra etzlam v'shem choshech v'az sheyochel l'kabel dom k'nis shimcha kodesh. So therefore, the essence, the Ata, is considered darkness. It's beyond anything. And this, that there is something that you could be makabel, something that you were able to take in, which is called what we call Memali Kolamin, the way Hashem fills the world, is from the manifestation of the name. Vayikra Ziva Shechina. This is what's known as Raiman in Zohar, Parshas Pinchas. It says, "Is the Yashis Choshes Sisra who Kesraya." What does it mean, the darkness? What is it? What is that level? If it's a level that you want to say that's even itself, the here he's giving it a name. It's not etzim. It says it's called Keser Elyon, the higher crown, and we know that Keser represents the Tainig and Ratzin, which means to say like God tells Moshe. Moshe says, "Show me, Hareini Nas Kodecha, show me your presence, show me the covenant of Hashem." So God says to Moshe, "You can't kilo yirani adam achai." To see the panim means to see what's really going on, the pnimius. So that you can't see and live. The chayus, to live in this world and to see the essence of God can't be. You can see Acharaim, you can only see the back. Moshe was only able to see the back of Hashem, means the chitzonius. And therefore, same thing over here. He says that what is the high level of hidden? That's the Keser Elyon, the higher crown, because the crown is the tainug, is the pleasure, which is the motivation of creation. That's very hard to and there's therefore when the higher you reach, the darker it is, and the less understood. It's not like when a person gets higher, now you say, "Oh, now I understand." It's beyond our comprehension. The higher you go, it's beyond our comprehension. Like we learned last week, it says, "Shtoik, be quiet, kachal machshava." This is how I decided. Why? Because it can't be articulated. So what are we saying over there? What rests in the Mishkan is the Ata Kodesh, is the level that even a ray the world can't accept. What does it mean that the covenant of Hashem rests in the Mishkan? Pirush Bazar, Reish Parshas Vayikra, May Molev Loi Mila, and La Molev Vadai Dismale Mikoila. That it's the terminology doesn't say Mila, that he filled something space that was there was filled up. But Mole, it's filled of, it's full of. That's the translation. And La Mole Vadai Dismale Mikoila, it's full of the essence. Not that the essence filled up the space, but the space of the Beis HaMikdash has been filled with the essence. What does this all mean? The Ikip Shite, the crush, Kvod Hashem Milei the Mishkan. If you want to say the way it seems simply, at the end of last week's parsha says that the kavod of Hashem is Milei, is filling up the Mishkan. Imkain, then it should have said Mila Miboile, that it's filled up with the kavod of Hashem. The Haya appears Rakshi Bechinas HaKavod Moles Mishkan, meaning that kavod fills up the space of the Mishkan. See the very fact that it says Mole, Mashma Oizes, Shebechinas Kvod Hashem Nishlama V'Nismala. That the kavod Hashem comes full. What does it mean? Kavod Hashem, kavod Hashem Malay is a Mishkan. Kavod Hashem Malay. That first you have to put a pause. Kavod Hashem Malay. That there was the full presence of God, and that was in the Mishkan. And so, of course, Moshe can't go into a space that the full presence of Hashem is revealed in the Mishkan. Lenient. Ki pirish kavod Hashem hainu b'chinas memali kolam. Ki pirish kavod Hashem, the kavod Hashem alone, not the kavod Hashem mali, the complete kavod of Hashem. That's the way Hashem fills the world. Kavod hainu zivikari, which is like we said the Rebbe. She b'chinas midas machusis baruch how Hashem is king, creator, king over his subjects. Shenikas gamkin chachmatata, which is the lower level of God's wisdom. Shimaka deviyah, which is the source of the creation. But where does it come from? What motivates? What's the real thinking? And this is again, there's a lot of levels that could be broken up over here, but we're going to go with the flow of the Maamar, obviously. But the wisdom, so to say, like the concentration or the thinking of creation is different than the wisdom of why there's a creation. So what fills the world is the chachmatata, the lower wisdom, which is the wisdom connected to the specifics that there is a creation, which in general that's called V'malikulam. The regular V'malikulam is the system, the chain of creation of how things come into being, and in each level, it's specific. It gives life to that specific level. So that's all chachmatata. It's each going as the flow goes, as creation comes into evolves deeper and deeper into creation. Hold on a second. So he says like this. So that's but what's the source of why there's a creation? Why there's this kavod Hashem? Is the higher wisdom. Sheyanikra kavod dila, which is the higher kavod. And that's the infinite life. This is what Moshe said, like I said before. Show me your kavod, show me the essence, show me the chachmi, the higher wisdom. That because of that comes the low wisdom of creation. Show me what's behind everything, and that's why. So the kavod Hashem is that's Maamar. That's why God fills the world. But you want to reveal the why, the depth, the darkness, the unknown beyond creation, and which is the source of creation. That's beyond Moshe's comprehension. When we say bless God from His place, when we say Baruch Hashem Mimkaim, what we're asking is, the blessing is, or the prayer is, that the kavod of Hashem should be filled with its essence, with its source. Which is the beginning of all transitions, the transfer, so to say, the higher level of Chachma. What does this all mean? This is the idea of revealing the encompassing light in the revealed light. Fundamentally, this is what everything's about. But fundamentally, the purpose of creation is this last line. Means the world exists that's V'malikulam. That's the existence, the highest. That's the creation. That's Bereshis. Bereshis is B'chachmusa, which is it could be that it's coming from Chachmila, but the actual creation comes from Chachmatata, the low level of wisdom that creates. That's like the thinking of something being structured. The world is created. But why is the world created? What's the purpose of creation? How are we performing the purpose of creation? That's the idea of revealing self of Memali. The reason God created the world is to reveal slowly through Torah mitzvahs, to bring Gilia Likus. Like I was thinking on Shabbos, to understand really what it means, Aniya violation, which we learned many times. I'm God, it doesn't change. What does it mean I'm God, it doesn't change? Like a statement about God, it's a statement about the creator, that the whole world comes from a place that's so beyond our understanding. That's the darkness. That the fact that God doesn't change is something that's not something we can really understand. It means that no change happens. Nothing affects God. God is same God as before the world, after the world. It means nothing from the world changes Hashem. So what is it that Hashem decided that He should be affected by the world? Why? What does Hashem want from all this, so to say? If you want to say, call it want, what's the taiva? The ratzon comes from the taiva, is that Sov is revealed in Memali. And how is Sov revealed in Memali? Through Torah mitzvahs. And in what way? In the most mundane way. When a young girl is standing on the street and asks a woman, "Excuse me, are you Jewish? Would you like to light Shabbos candles?" And the woman takes and goes home and lights the Shabbos candles. That is Sovev being revealed in Memali. That's a woman who has no connection to God, who would not light the Shabbos candles. And in that interaction that she has with the young girl who says, "Would you like to light Shabbos candles?" And she lights the Shabbos candles because of that. That's the connection between Tov and Maamar. That's the idea. That is Aniyah Violation Nisi in its full form. That in this world, with the person who was disconnected or didn't realize that she was connected, nevertheless goes and lights and changes her time to go bring the light of Shabbos into her house. That's Aniyah Violation Nisi. That's Soviv Memali. But that's the way it is already filtered into the full world. Moshe Rabbeinu sees it in its rawness of the Kvod Hashem Mule as a Mishkan. Soviv is filled. The purpose of creation is being revealed within creation. And if God doesn't call Moshe, Moshe can't enter the Beis HaMikdash, the Mishkan. Because just for Moshe, who's part of creation, to enter into the space of Soviv, the way it fills into Memali, the Ata Kodesh is revealed. That's beyond a person's ability to walk in on their own. That's why Vayikra el Moshe, God calls Moshe. V'zeu Pirush Kavod Hashem Mali. The Pirush Hazor Shakoved Nismali Min Koire. That it means, what does it mean Kavod Hashem Mali? So again, it's giving understanding that the Kavod, which is Memali Kolamim, gets filled with its source. The source, the Soviv, is revealed in the Memali. That through the Anan, through the cloud, that's the process of Soviv, of beyond the world, of the encompassing energy revealing itself within the internal energy, within the Memali Kolam. Ala Mishkan, that the higher level of encompassing energy of godliness, by days and nimshach, gamkin is galus, and therefore we have the revelation of Soviv Kolam and Bim Memali Kolam, and that's happening when that's how the last week's Parsha ends. So the last week's Parsha ends how? Last week's Parsha, the Parsha Shmos ends. It's fabulous because what happens is here you see it in the most high level. You see it in the way that seems such a high revelation that even Moshe can't enter the Mishkan. And then we're standing 3,000 so plus years later, and slowly every time someone does a Torah and every time studies Torah and every time someone does a mitzvah, it's that same thing. It may not be so overwhelming because we don't see it as the same thing. There it was being revealed what happens when you do a mitzvah. There it was revealed to Moshe, Hareni, Noas Kvedecha. Show me, means don't create it for me. Show me what's happening. So God says you can't see what's happening b'chai. And therefore it's a slow process. There's a lot of that whole thing. That's when we do Torah mitzvahs, that's going to be with Mashiach. What is it Mashiach? That's Megillah Likus. The purpose of Mashiach is that we're going to see what it means, the Gilui of Soviv Memali. So therefore, he says, "Iskal Soviv Memali b'chinas ar pnimi v'hu mali is the Mishkan mamish," and that's what fills the Mishkan. Therefore, if such a revelation is happening raw, without the process, without kind of it being, I don't want to say water. It's not the words watered down. It's not watered down. It's just not revealed exactly. Moshe sees it as it is, and therefore he can't enter the Mishkan. To have the revealed level of Soviv and Memali, Moshe couldn't walk in there. And God already told him that. When he says, a person can't see really nice Kvodecha. You want to see the essence, you want to see what does it mean, the source of the Kavod of Hashem. That's not possible. Hagam Shavar Sini Nemra. So here we ask the question that we asked before. So what are we saying? The Moshe Rabbeinu can't go into the cloud, but it says in other places in Parshas Mishpatim, Moshe goes into the cloud. So why are we saying he can't go into the cloud? But Ya'ala Lahor, he goes into the mountain. So the Zohar answers, it's Rei Anani, it's Habi. There's two levels of the cloud. And the cloud that Moshe went into was a lower level he was able to enter, but the cloud that reveals itself in the Mishkan, he was not able to enter until he was being called. We're going to go a little further. Like I said, unfortunately, we had to come a little bit to the hospital, so I'm kind of not in the proper setting. So we're going to continue a little bit the Maamar. Therefore, the pasuk says, starts this week's parsha. Vayikra el Moshe. Moshe's call to enter. In Korea, what does the calling mean? So it's not the way we literally understand it. It's calling, like someone calls someone. This enables Moshe. It gives him the power. The calling allows for him that he should be able to go into the Omoed. What he was lacking is given to him, and now he can go into the sanctuary. That's the Vayikra. The Vayikra is the empowering call. It's not just a call, but it's an empowering call. And he gives a proof. Where's the proof? The proof is, and we say in Yeshaya, we say this every day in the davening. When we say Vayikra el Moshe, it says that the angels call each other. Maamar Kaddish, Kaddish, and they say 3 times Kaddish. So what does the Targum say? What does the translation say? How does it translate to Vayikra el Moshe, that the angels call to each other? It translates to Mekablim Dein Midein. They receive from each other. So he translates the calling as receiving. V'amrim Kaddish, and they say Kaddish. The Targum teaches us, again, you have to remember something. The Targum, when we went into Gemara Sanhedrin, of the fabulous, amazing work that Onkelos, the convert, right? He was a descendant of Roman aristocrats, the nephew of Titus, the destroyer of Jerusalem. When he translates the Chumash in the translate of Onkelos, it's not just he's telling us like the English translation what the words are. He's teaching us what the words are. Now, what does it mean? Vayikra el Moshe? This is not the Targum of Onkelos. This is the Targum of Yonas and Ben Israel. But there's the same idea. That what does it mean? Vayikra el Moshe is Mekablim. The Kara means to receive, which teaches the whole new meaning. That when it says they call to each other, they need to receive from each other. They need to empower each other so they should be able to say Kaddish. When they empower each other, they give each other over. When they receive from each other, then they could say Kaddish. When Moshe is called, is Mekabel, he's receiving the power. Now we could enter into the oh my. Because the Alter Rebbe says the way Targum Yonasan translates Adin Imay means he's right. Why? You can't say that the angels calling each other means literally calling each other. The Alter Rebbe says if that's the case, it doesn't have Havana. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't Havana means there's no comprehension to the idea. Lama tzarich Michael likros es Gabriel. What does it mean? Who's calling? The angel Michael, which is the Chesed, is calling to Gabriel, who's Din. Why does he have to call to Gabriel to say Kaddish? Let him say Kaddish and Gabriel say Kaddish. Why do they have to call to each other? Gabriel has to call back to Michael. When they're calling to each other means they can't say it alone. Just like Moshe can't go into the Mishkan. They need to give each other over, empower each other, receive from each other, the angels, and then they can say Kaddish. Then the angels receive from each other. Means Chesed has to give into Gvur, and Gvur has to give to Chesed, because these angels represent kindness and severity. And only then they can say Kaddish, because they've been given, they've been included, they have an inclusiveness of each other, and therefore they're able to say each one 3 Kaddish. The 3 Kaddish actually is Gabriel, Michael, and Raphael. What does it mean that they say Kaddish? That's the way they're expressing themselves. Like it says, that they go with song. Shir is song. The song is, but the Alter Rebbe teaches it also in a song. Through the song, through the calling each other, they elevate. Michal is all about the love. The Gabriel B'Yira, Gabriel is all about awe. So if Michal wants to say Kaddish, he can only say 1 time. He can only express the love. It means calling 3 times is not repetitive. Calling 3 times is 3 expressions. But if he's only one entity, which is love, how can he give 3 expressions? He only has 1 expression, the one of love. So he can only say Kaddish 1 time. How can they all 3 say Kaddish 3 times? Is when they have inclusiveness, when he can also say it out of awe, and he can also say it out of Raphael, which is going to be the Tiferes. So he can only say 1 time, Rak Pamachas. Tanu close to Nefesh B'chinas Ave, he can only express his love. There's a Gabriel. Pamachas, he can only also say 1 time, which is the awe, the fear. How could each one say 3 if they only have one way of service, which is love? When they give from each other to each other, which means inclusiveness. Kaddish out of awe, even though his being is love, but he received the awe from Gabriel, and therefore he could say a 2nd time Kaddish. It means each time we say Kaddish is not again a repetitive. It represents 3 levels of Kaddish: the Kaddish from the perspective of love, and the Kaddish of the perspective of awe. That's his inclusiveness. Like Michal takes from Gabriel, it's special. Word first. Now he says that it's not just Michal and Gabriel because it's only 2 times. So who's the 3rd time? Is Michal, Gabriel, and Raphael. Right? Beautiful son, Mimina, Michal, Ismail, Gabriel. And when they receive from each other, then they can say Kaddish because they're saying Kaddish from another perspective. It means when Michal is given the perspective or the ability to see things or to feel things, because the Malachim are Midas, to feel things from the level of awe. So now the level of awe within Michal, because he received that from Gabriel, is able to say Kaddish. But what do we see from this? From this we see that each one of the angels, when it says V'kara Zeh means they receive. So we see that the idea of Kriya means to receive. Moshe can't go into the tabernacle because the Anan, the raw revelation of Soviv Mamala was revealed that the Kvod Hashem Milei, that the Kavod gets filled with its source, which means the revelation of Or and Sof in the Mishkan, he can't walk in. So Vayikra el Moshe, Moshe is empowered. He's called, he's given Mikabel, he's given the ability that he can go in. And then, again, everything about Moshe Rabbeinu is for Klal Yisrael, which means that's the calling, that every Jew has the ability to go into the Kodesh. Every Jew has the ability to go in and make the self, to bring about that and reveal the self, the infinite life only safe in this world. And again, and how does that reveal itself? In Tachlis. Again, when the little girl stands to the woman, asks her, is she Jewish? Would you like to light Shabbos candles? And she lights Shabbos candles. So the young boy asks the man if he would like to put on tefillin. And he puts on the tefillin. That's the revelation of Memali. That's Anya violation Nisti. That's the Kavod Hashem Miles as Oil Moed. Ukamoyke Pirush Vayikra el Moshe. So they say, just like by the angels, so too Moshe Rabbeinu. What does it mean Vayikra el Moshe? Moshe was called. Hainu Amshachas Oris al Moshe, to give Moshe the ability. And Va'orazu inin aleph zir. Now he answers why the Vayikra is with a small aleph. The Vayikra means. So the question is like this. The question is, is that mitzumtzum? Is the calling? Is Moshe able to walk into the Olam Moed as it was, or is there again process called simsum or process in a way that allows for Moshe to go in? So although Moshe is elevated, but he's also elevated, and the light becomes more available. What would that be? The idea that would be the Aleph in Vayikra. The Aleph becomes small. It's like filter or condensing the light to make it that Moshe can go in. Because if Moshe wasn't able to come before, what really changed? So you give enabling Moshe, but together with enabling Moshe through the Aleph Zir, the small Aleph, means that it's been also made it available for Moshe. That the light is available now for Moshe to go in. That's the small Aleph Vayikra. Aleph Oisis Pella. Aleph is like a wonder. Is the Aleph makes up from the word Pella, which is Aleph actually means the Aleph is the letter. But how do you write the word Aleph? Is Aleph Lamed Pei. Aleph is Aleph. And you could turn the letters around and you have Pella, which is a wonder. What's a wonder? Why is it called a wonder? Something that's understood is not wondrous. Something that's beyond your comprehension is a Pella, is a wonder. It's wonder. And we know that in Revelation, that Niflais, wonders, is greater than miracles, even Nisan. Rebbe spoke about that in the final years. Today's Adar. We remember the day the Rebbe suffered the stroke. So this is the idea of Pella, which is a wonder. The Gam Elef Miloshin Alafcha Chachma starts the beginning of wisdom. The source of the wisdom. The Aleph is the Keser, the crown that's above the Chachma, the wisdom. So over there, Moshe is able to enter. But if the Aleph is Za'ira, is small, so then Moshe is receptacle for it. Adam Rishon we're going to learn. So he says, let's see it in fact. Aleph Asvan Rav Ravan. This is the large Aleph, a major manifestation of Pella, of the wonder of the Aleph Chabin, of the source of wisdom. The way this crown is in its essence. Moshe still wasn't really able to go there. It's also, it's not just that Moshe was enabled, but also, that's what I'm saying, but also that the light itself was a little condensed in its simsum. The Aleph Asvan Zir, but the smaller letter, which is just a manifestation of the Keser, not the Keser itself. It has to go through the process of simsum. That's what happened. Moshe, it was a combination. Moshe gets elevated and the light gets condensed or contracted. And therefore Moshe now able to enter. Then he could go into the Almighty, which has the honor. Made it a space that Moshe could be in. And elevate Moshe that he could be in that higher space, but it's still the essence of the space. And again, that's why I'm saying that's the way it is that's still the raw, but that's the way it is in every time a person does Torah mitzvah. Every time a person does Torah mitzvahs means how could a person, how could a nivra, how could a creation affect that there should be a revelation of Gilui Likus, of Or Ein Sof in the world, even if we don't see exactly the effect of our mitzvahs, is because Vayikra. Every Jew is called, and every Jew has the ability that through the doing of the mitzvahs, you're taking something that's infinite, something that's a pella, something that's a wonder, and bringing it into the world. And when it reaches the point of not just doing something isolated, but actually in a transaction between two people, where a person takes from them and they become the mashpia to the makabel, and that effect, and the next person goes with that. Like I was saying, example of the boy asking someone to put on film, and the girl asking someone to light Shabbos candles. So that although it seems, what do you mean? It's just two people talking, and she's just lighting a candle. He's just putting on film. But that's actually the what's really happening over there is Moshe is entering into the Almoy. And he says, however, over Divrei Yomim, sorry. Now Moshe could go into the Almoy, where the cloud was. With Divrei Yomim. And the book of Divrei Yomim talks about Adam, and he gives Adam the large olive. So if Moshe has a small olive, how could Adam have a large olive? General, the rule of thumb is, I'm not going to go into the reasons why. In Chassidus, there is not such a big. I'm going to choose my words a little carefully. But it's not. They don't. Like in Yiddish, they say mahaltenish. There's no one's too overwhelmed with Adam Marisha. Means Adam is very great. He's greater than Moshe because he has a big olive. But on the playing field, we're not major. No one's majorly impressed with Adam Rishon. The Adam is said with a large olive. Because before the sin, Adam was amazing, but once he sinned, he fell. So Adam Rishon was the olive of Adam that it says in Divrei Yomim when he's created. He was very great, and therefore he was able to have the large olive. Moshe Rabbeinu had a short olive. I'm going to stop here because I have to go back to my daughter. And I would thank everyone for joining me under these circumstances. And as Hashem, it's just something small, hopefully. And see you.
Apparently, that your daughter is not well.
She had a little infection after the surgery, so we went back to the hospital yesterday.
What surgery did she have?
A correction in her back.
Okay. Well, she'll be okay. God willing.
Bezrat Hashem. I thank you all for joining. And Shavua Tov. Take care.